Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the Mandatory. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media channels. You'll see on the screen the ways that you can connect with us on our personal accounts. And thanks so much for rocking with us. We took a bit of a hiatus because it's been a very, very slow month of boxing. But there's still some news and lots to talk about. So we're going to get into that. One of the things we're going to mention is obviously Top Rank. They still don't have a TV deal. So we'll be getting into that. We're
Speaking of
also going to
slow,
talk. Yeah, we're also going to be talking about the Pitbull Cruise card that got announced not too long ago, and a fight that was on, well, that is supposedly on the card, which is Stephen Fulton and Oshaki Foster. That was going to be on the Fundora Thurman card, but obviously that got canceled because Fundora has an injury. So, lot to get into. Also, because Jaron Boots Ennis was victorious over the weekend, had a statement performance. Of course, we all kind of expected that based off who he was fighting, but nonetheless, it gives us the conversation of the state of 154, Bryan.
Ryan, to answer your question, like immediately off the bat, he said not including Murtazayev in the thumbnail is vile. And what I would tell you is he doesn't have a fight coming up. And he even posted a few days ago like something to the effect of like, damn, I wish I was fighting right now, whatever it was. Lubin has a fight coming up. Virgil Ortiz has a fight coming up. Boots just fought. Fundora was supposed to fight. And Xander's supposed to fight, except we don't know what's going to happen with Top Rank, which we're going to talk about. 154 continues to be the weight class that we talk about the most on this show because it is a constant freaking mess. And this past weekend did nothing to quell that because Boots just beat an overmatched challenger, and we have a big fight at 154 that just got canceled. So be it.
Yeah, and there's lots to talk about because the big conversation obviously is what's going to be next for Jaron Boots Ennis. And then also, we were probably all waiting for the Keith Thurman Fundora fight. And now Keith Thurman's not fighting again. But this time it's not his fault. This time it's not the fact that he's injured, it's Fundora. But
Yeah.
it also poses the question, what's next for Jaron Boots Ennis? And I think even though Virgil Ortiz is going to be fighting, we all know that is going to be the fight next, Bryan. But if you want to pull up the rankings for 154, we can obviously go through that.
do you not enjoy the rankings? Do you
No,
not?
no, I think if we get a visual of it, we can kind of go through of what's going on at 154. And yeah, I think everybody knows that the next fight is going to be Jaron Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz, and hopefully they make that happen.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Immediately, right? Right, right off the jump. How did Lima get to number 6 in the IVF before this fight and number 8 by the WBA? So we talked about before he fought Boots, he wasn't even a top 10 guy and then shows up in the top 10 by the WBA. And the WBA is like, hey, we're going to make this an eliminator because you often see eliminators between number 1 guys and number 10 guys. By the way, Boots moved up and was number 1. And now, because Boots won by first round knockout, in case you missed it Saturday, we'll talk about our reactions to that fight. Lima like gradually moved up from like whatever it was to 10 to 9 to 8 and then mysteriously 6 by the IBF. It just come on, man. Like it
Yeah.
just makes the knockout look worse in retrospect, but we should have expected that, I suppose.
Yeah, and we can probably get into that. Like, what were your thoughts on Boots' performance?
Whatever. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, "Oh, this proves that he's look, if you loved Boots and think he's awesome before this, like in a non-biased in a biased way. If you love Boots before this is gonna legitimize you in your mind. And if you were someone who's anti-Boots, then you're gonna look at this and be like, who did he beat? And to me, like, and really both of us, we think the world of Boots' talent. Like he's a pound for pound level of talent, but he's 35-0, and he doesn't have like a signature win on his resume. He has a best win on his resume, being Amantis Stanionis, who came off a long layoff, as we've talked about, who I think just recently made his return, like a champion, but not somebody who was active much going into that fight. And we both thought he would perform better than he did. but ultimately that didn't happen. That's still
Yeah.
his best win. And then with this fight against Lima, it was clear from the jump. I thought he was gonna. I assume you thought Lima was gonna be out of there fast.
I didn't know it'd be like a first round type of deal, but I expected Jaron Boots Ennis to dominate, especially because it's Boots. And here's the thing: I know a lot of people gave him a lot of flack for fighting Lima, and everybody was like, "Well, why isn't he fighting Virgil Ortiz or Fundora?" Well, they already had their fight set up. So who was Jaron Boots Ennis going to pick off this list? He decided to go with Lima, which, hey, if it's a tune-up fight and then you're going to fight Virgil Ortiz, that's fine. That actually makes sense then. If this is going to be your tune-up fight and then you go fight Virgil Ortiz, okay, I'm with it. But as long as he fights a big name, I think he needs that big name on his resume. And then I think it sets up for Bud to probably fight the winner.
I don't think Bud's gonna drop to 154. You do?
Well, they might move up.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
Because
I
there's been talk about Virgil fighting Bud. There's been talk about,
yeah.
Jaron Boots Ennis fighting Bud when they were at welterweight. But here's the thing. If you take a look at Bud and you take a look at 160, like, who is he going to fight? What's the big money fight? The big money fight is fighting a guy like Virgil Ortiz or fighting a guy like Jaron Boots Ennis. I think that would probably make the most noise if you actually scroll up on the rankings there when we take a look at 160, even though this is a 154 conversation. Bud's name does get paired into this a little bit because, like, we mentioned earlier, the Pitbull Cruise card. On that card, Janibek and Lara are on that card.
That's been announced. Yes, they're gonna unify. I find it very interesting because I believe that's a ring event, and I think because it's a ring event, like I'm watching that closely. The Janibek, by the way, top rank fighter, fighting against Erislandy Lara, who I guess PBC fighter. I don't know. Like, he's fought on PBC cards obviously for a long time, but at this point, whatever. I think because it's a ring event, that Terrence Crawford could see himself dropping down to 160, because I feel like this is very easy to do now. If you're Bud, not that either of these fights would be easy per se, but you can fight the winner of the fight who's going to have 3 middleweight titles, and you could be undisputed middleweight champion before you retire. Just win this one fight and then beat whoever the WBC champion is at that time, whether it's Carlos Adames or somebody else. It might still be Carlos Adames. We need to see Carlos Adames fight again.
Here's the thing, though, with that, right? He could do that. Bud fights once a year. We're probably going to see him next summer. Within that span of now until next summer, because we know Bud fights once a year, what's the bigger fight? Because if Boots and Virgil do fight, it will be within that year. Hopefully, right after Virgil's done his fight, the next fight up would be him and Boots. What's the bigger fight? If we're talking money, it's not Janibek and Lara, even though the belts are involved. The money fight, and we know it's not going to be a money fight because look at, like, with Canelo and Bud, he went for the biggest fight, ended up having a great performance, and of course, he took Canelo's belts. But I'll say this though, like, the money fight that makes sense for Bud, and Boots has said he wanted to move up to 160. He was already talking about that.
He should beat someone better than Lima at 154 first.
I don't even think it matters though, because Bud didn't fight anybody in Canelo's weight class and went up there and fought him. Like, I don't think these guys care at this point.
But Bud had like he had wins. You know what I mean? Like, he beat Errol Spence, he beat Sean Porter, like he beat legitimate dudes in different weight classes. I know at the time people were saying like, oh, who is he beat before the Errol Spence thing? And then they romanticized his resume after he beat Errol Spence because the internet's never wrong. But no, like, he had a legit resume before this. Boots, like, Boots is almost 30.
Well, that's the thing that I'm saying is that you take a look at his resume, and Stanionis is the only name that you can be like, okay. But even then, it's not one of those wins that stamp his resume like, okay, he's one of the greatest of all time. Like, that's not even a conversation that you could have about Boots. But he already said he wanted to fight Bud at 147. And then before he even got to 154, he was talking about moving up to 160, and he didn't even have a fight at 154. I'm just saying, like, if I'm Bud, I think it makes more sense to fight a guy like Boots or Virgil and make the most money that you can, because Janibek and Lara, Bud will make money, but it's not going to have the same aura as those 2 other fights. That's just my opinion on it.
It depends on what you care about. So if you're Bud,
But
you
some
could
guys
have,
don't care about legacy now, you know?
but Bud does. Like he
Yeah.
does, and like he can unify a fourth weight class. I mean, technically he was unified at lightweight, but he wasn't undisputed. But he could be undisputed and like at 160 after doing it at or third weight class after doing it at no fourth weight class 140, 147, 168. Yeah, he could do it at 160, and it's like with Boots, the issue I think a lot of people have with Boots, like this for example, 610 Nas says nobody cares when Madrimov is getting beat on by top guys while he has less than 20 fights because he's at least fighting top guys. I believe is the point. The issue I'm having with Boots and that I think people are having with Boots is the actions aren't backing up the words. Like you say you want to fight all these dudes, but when we look at who you're actually fighting, it doesn't really add up. Somebody who's an A side, who has a promotion, who has promotional backing, match room, who's getting fights, like the Stanionis one. Okay, we gave you that. For whatever reason, the IBF made him fight Karen Chukadazan again. Inexplicable. I mean, what's he gonna do? Vacate the title? I mean, I guess you can if you want. If you feel like you were gonna move up to 154 anyway, like you probably could have done that. David Avanessia and Romain Villa. We talked about Lima already. Chukadazan before that. That was for the interim world title, obviously. But just going up and down, like his best wins are like Stanionis. The second Chukadazan fight, he didn't even look great. The first Chukadazan fight, he didn't even look great. Villa we both like, but we would both acknowledge he's like B or C level, probably C. If Stanionis is a B, Sergey Lipinets, but like what? Like again, what are we talking about? I think with Boots, I want the actions to back up the words. Like you say, you want to fight Virgil Ortiz. There, people blame him for pulling out of that fight. So I don't know. I don't know. Does he actually want like some of these bigger fights? I guess is my question. Like, on what level do you just want it on your terms or whatever? But some of these other dudes who have way fewer fights than 35 are going out and taking challenges and taking risks in this weight class. Like Virgil Ortiz, even though I think he's maybe a little more flawed as a fighter than some people would say, I respect the hell out of him for multiple different reasons. One of which being he puts it on the line. Like he's out here like taking tough challenges. And he's also somebody who's, I think, roughly the same age as Boots, maybe slightly younger. And he has way less fights and has had like a health scare in the past. I just want the actions to match up. So I think as it relates to Crawford, I think to me, I would just chase 160 and be like, yo, let me unify in this weight class because no one's going to be able to top my accomplishments, and I'd be a GOAT. The Boots fight would be cool, but like Boots, if you feel like you're Bud, you feel like has Boots actually earned this to fight me? Like you could actually play that game if you want to.
I think he talked about that last time though when Boots wanted to fight him at 147. Like there was a conversation where he was like, "Yeah, I don't like really care to fight Boots." It didn't make sense to him. You know, so I mean, I don't know. I just think if we're talking money, if we're talking like the biggest fight that you can make and a fight that people would care about, I think that those fights would be more cared about. Mateo says Boots versus Murtazayev is the one that I want.
Now that you bring that up, I'm a little confused at. So he was the IBF champion first, obviously, before adding the WBA. He was the IBF champion first. How come the IBF couldn't make him the number one ranked guy in their rankings as opposed to the WBA? Because then we would have actually gotten by now Boots versus Martazayev, which is now he's WBA interim champion. So I guess if we go back to the rankings, I guess that means. And here's the other thing about it: everyone wants to fight Abbas Baru because they think he's sweet because he's a new WBA champion who beat Yoenis Telez. Xander's trying to unify with him, supposedly, or Top Rank is trying to set that up for Xander, rather. Boots is being positioned to fight him by Matchroom because Matchroom, like, maybe that's the reason, right? Maybe I just answered my own question. Maybe that's the reason. Matchroom was like, hey, we're gonna put you high in the WBA rankings instead, so you can fight Abbas Baru because we think he's a gimme and Murtazayev is tough and can't get a fight, so we're just gonna leave him over there and let him sort of rot. So yeah, I think Boots versus Murtazayev would have made sense because you would put the IBF guy at welterweight as the number one guy at 154, but they didn't do that because clearly they see something else. They see an inefficiency at WBA because Tellez was the champion who wasn't like awesome, and now it's Abbas and okay, okay.
Oh, this is an interesting one from 610 Naz. Virgil does nothing for his resume. Virgil was never a champ. We give Virgil credit for fighting guys like Madrimov and Lubin.
I mean, Madrimov and Lubin are good though.
Yeah, I mean, like, and at the same time, those are decent names. I think Virgil might have a better resume than Jaron Boots Ennis.
He does.
Yeah,
he does.
So I think
Let's go through
that's
it.
23-0. And Virgil's trying to fight guys. And as you know, like the rumor is that Boots was the one that didn't want to have the fight with him. So we'll see if it goes down this time, but let's go take a look through his resume.
And by the way, I think Boots should want to fight with him because I think Boots could beat Virgil Ortiz. Like, I
Yeah.
would probably favor Boots in that fight. That's the thing with Boots. It's like a lot of people are like, yo, it's almost like the Tank thing where they're like, yo, if you took a chance, like if you took a real chance, you'd be awesome and you could beat just about anybody.
Mhm.
But do it. You know, it's almost like with Tank where it's like, yo, maybe he can beat Shakur. Maybe. I'm less confident in that now post Lamont Roach, but maybe. But now I don't feel like we're ever going to see it. Boots, we still have time with him, so we'll see. And I think I think he's a little more sincere in wanting to chase bigger fights than Tank at this point. Erickson Lubin's legit. Seriously, he's legit even still. And I also don't think this is a gimme for Virgil Ortiz. I think he should be favored, and I think he'll win, but it's not a gimme. Madrimov was coming off the Terrence Crawford fight.
Yeah.
And that was really competitive. A lot of people thought Madrimov like should have gotten a better shake from the judges. I think Crawford won that. Bohachuk.
That was a good fight. Very good fight.
I'm not sure Virgil won that one.
No, but I just mean it was a good fight to watch, like very entertaining. A very good fight. But I think with that fight, the thing with Virgil is that the reason why I like him as a fighter is because he does have flaws and he does make mistakes, but at the same time, he figures out a way to win. Like that was a fight for Virgil that I was impressed with because like it wasn't looking good at some points. And he ended up getting the unanimous decision, I believe. Or was it the majority decision? It was very close. It was a very close fight.
Majority decision.
Yeah. And I believe he got dropped in that fight.
Nas, I don't think Lubin never being a champ doesn't mean he's bad, though. Like, who cares? Like, who gives a shit? Like, Lubin dropped some pretty good fucking fighters. His last fight against Andre L. Holmes, he was really impressive. He's a legit dude. He's a legit test. He'd probably be the best test on Boots' resume right now if Boots were to fight him. He probably would be.
Yeah.
Like I'm not positive Stanionis beats Lubin even right now. Even if you want to say Lubin's washed, he's been knocked out by Charlo and all these different things. Like I don't think. Yeah, I disagree. I don't think Boots versus Virgil is dead or should be dead because of Virgil. Like he got dropped by Bohachuk twice, but he fought him.
Another thing about Virgil and another thing about what goes into making these big fights is, do you have the name to sell out arenas? Virgil Ortiz has that. I think Virgil Ortiz's name might be bigger than Boots' name.
Probably at this point.
Like, and that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate because Boots is so good and Boots should be like the face of boxing. That's what I think. I think that's how good Boots is. But I still think that if Boots was to take this fight with Virgil and they're all saying it's going to happen, then this is going to be a massive fight. And I think right now, if we were to pick who we were leaning with, I would definitely lean towards Boots winning that fight, just in terms of skill, just in terms of strength, and just in terms of the mistakes that Virgil makes. But Virgil is a very entertaining fighter, and I wouldn't say that fight is dead.
No.
Who cares? Who cares? Like Mateo, like Virgil did get dropped, but who cares? Because he's still undefeated. Like
he to Virgil's credit, he did get dropped twice because I've highlighted this before, and that's because of the defensive mistakes. But he didn't get like wobbled and rocked each time. Like
the way he fights, though, he's gonna probably get dropped. Like he's not the best defensively, like his style, he's probably gonna get dropped because he gets hit a lot. So it's like it's one of those things where it's like style versus skill. whatever. Like some guys will get dropped because of how they fight. That's just the way it is.
We've seen Karen Chukadas on rock boots.
Yeah.
Which is
And
shocking to me.
Virgil's got real power too. But it just in terms of strength and like the build, like Boots looks very, very strong. Like just
He's
in
gonna
terms of
fill
his
out to
build.
160 easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Which is why I think that fight with Boots and Bud is very live. That's a fight that they can make. And I think that'd be a great fight to make. I'd want to see it.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
But I think like I would more expect, like if I'm setting odds, what's Bud's next move? The betting favorite to me will probably be middleweight. Um, and then I don't know where Boots would fall after that. There's got to be like several options there, but Boots probably wouldn't be at the top, at least as of today. If new reporting comes out, if any reporting really emerges on what he's going to do, but look, as you said, he fights once a year, so we're probably not going to know Bud's plans for months.
Yeah, definitely not. If you have any comments, please drop them in the chat. We do take a look at them sometimes after the show. Brian, any final thoughts on 154 before we kind of get out of here? Like, did
Yeah,
you want to chat more about Fundora and
yeah, because of the cancellation, or postponement, because it looks like this fight. There's a rumor that Manny Pacquiao might come back in January, and that this may actually be on the Manny Pacquiao card now. But it's a rumor. It's boxing. We don't know until the contracts are signed. Honestly, we don't know until these dudes weigh in, in a lot of different instances. But since it's Manny Pacquiao, probably worth a mention. That being said, this fight is not going to happen right now. Keith Thurman and Sebastian Fundora. We will see what happens there. I think that with this fight, since it looks like it's still going to get made, this kind of puts Virgil in a little bit of a holding pattern now, assuming he even beats Erickson Lubin, because I don't want to assume that. Maybe I respect Erickson Lubin too much. I don't know. But if Virgil does win that fight, then he is in line as the interim champion who's been an interim champion for a while. And like he can fight the winner of Fundora and Keith Thurman, theoretically. Now, promotionally, we'll see how that like happens, but that's what this sort of signals to me. So I don't even know if Boots. I think what probably happens is Boots ends up fighting Abbas Baru, like spring or something like that. Virgil, assuming he beats Erickson Lubin, probably fights the winner of Fundora Thurman either spring or summer. It also depends when the postponed fight actually happens. If it's January, maybe the fight ends up being in like May, June, whatever. And then maybe the earliest we get Virgil and Ennis is like late next year. Like that's sort of how I see this playing out. I don't know what that means for like Xander Zayas and Bakar Murtazayev. They both need fights. Xander's supposed to have this title defense in Puerto Rico at some point. It was going to be December. Don't know what Top Rank. That we don't know what's happening with Top Rank. I know you wanted to get into that, so we'll do that. And then Murtazayev needs a fight. So Xander could, I think, defend his title and maybe fight. Maybe you want to unify with Murtazayev. Oh, good luck with that. But I think that's going to be a tough matchup both ways, and we'll see what happens. Like, is Josh Kelly going to get the shot? I don't know. So,
well, here's the thing. I think Xander obviously still has to defend his title, but what would you feel about because Boots already won, right? Does Xander have a fight coming up? Nothing has been announced. Top
nothing.
Rank does not have a deal, which we are going to get into. How would you feel? Because this would be like a very interesting fight in terms of where it is, because Boots is from Philly and Xander Zayas is from Puerto Rico, but you know that New York is heavy Puerto Rican.
Yes, he fights here.
Why don't you think it'd be very interesting if Zayas was to take on a very, very big fight like Jaron Boots Ennis? Is he ready for that? He's a champion.
You know, it's funny. I actually think I think he's more ready for that than people think.
Yeah.
And he does present some things that can give Boots problems, like the movement, for example. Like he had a tough time with Karen Chukadazan because of the movement in the first fight. And then in the second fight, it was a combination of the movement and like surprising accuracy in different moments. I actually want to rewatch that fight again. But like I do think there are some things Xander can take, because I think Xander's becoming a little underrated now. Not by Puerto Ricans, to be clear, but to people who aren't. Boots is getting more visceral reaction one way or another. I think that's a big fight. I wonder who's the A side there, because Matchroom and Top Rank have to get together, and Boots has been a champion for longer, not this way, but a champion for longer. I think he should be the bigger name, but
Can I kind of give a little bit of a comparison of what that fight would kind of remind me of? It would kind of remind me of Teofimo Lopez fighting Lomachenko. But Boots isn't as revered as Loma, right? Because when Teofimo Lopez fought Lomachenko was like known as maybe pound for pound. Like people were saying that he was like maybe pound for pound on that list. But Boots has like this aura about him where everyone knows that he's really, really good, right? But he's also been fighting longer. So I think he has a little bit of more cachet, and like people are still having questions about Zayas, which is fair. However, I think if Xander Zayas was to beat a guy like Jaron Boots Ennis, how people would perceive it would be very similar to Teo beating Loma. Because remember, like that was the part where like Teo just took off, because Teo wasn't supposed to win that fight against Lomachenko
until he ran into George Campbell.
Yeah, and he was, you know what, he didn't prepare for that fight. That's a fight that I look at the resume and we all know what happened.
We've talked about that extensively, yes.
But I think it's very similar in that sense, where it's like Teo took a challenge and was like, yo, okay, we'll fight Loma. We'll do it. Xander Zayas can do the exact same thing. And that's a massive fight that you could have in New York. You know, Jaron Boots Ennis, not too far away, 2 hours away from Philly. They can do that. I think they could do that at Madison Square Garden. The Garden. That is a massive fight.
That's a fight.
Brian, that is one of the biggest fights you can make in boxing, other than Zayas and Virgil Ortiz, I think, at 154. Other than Zayas and Sebastian Fundora at 154. Like, that's just as big as a fight. In fact, like, I think I might be more excited for that fight than I would Fundora and Virgil Ortiz.
I also don't think one guy in this weight class in general, this is not specific to Boots and Zayas, I don't think one guy is like extremely more popular than the next. Like if you're doing a rankings of like who's gonna be the biggest draw, Boots draws in Philly. He's from Philly. Xander will draw in Puerto Rico if they do that title defense, and he does draw in New York when he comes out here. Granted, it's the theater, but still. Virgil, I mean, shit. He's been fighting in Riyadh, so I don't know, right? Like, or his last fight was in Riyadh, at least. Before that, he did fight in Vegas. And Fundora, obviously, like he's becoming more of a name now too. I think with this fight, the interesting thing for me, because I talk about how Xander could be a problem for Boots, the obvious thing for Boots is like, can Xander handle the power? Because Boots's power seems to carry over, or will carry over, I think, at 154. Lima wasn't the test for that, but I think this would be like a big fight if promoted properly. So, and I think to generate some buzz for it, I think you do the Xander Zayas title defense first. He hasn't fought since July.
Yeah, it needs a little bit of a tune-up. It needs a little bit of a tune-up as well before you go
Josh
into,
Kelly in Puerto Rico. Dude, Josh Kelly in Puerto Rico. That's the one. Because I thought Josh Kelly was gonna fight somebody else. And now
wasn't there rumors that he was gonna fight Zayas like a while ago, remember?
And then he got offered to fight, was it Boots?
Or was it Virgil?
It might have been Boots, because they were pissed off about not getting, they feel like they got lowballed by Eddie Hearn, so it must have been Boots. So Josh Kelly is the number one contender for the WBO. So like Xander versus Josh Kelly, do that in Puerto Rico, do that. Maybe you can still do it in December, maybe it's January, whatever. And then like I think the WBA might probably be like, hey, Boots versus Baru, get the WBA title. And if you're Xander, you're probably cool with that. So it's like, all right, instead of fighting an interim champion, let me fight an actual champion. Let me fight Boots when he's a champion, and then we can unify for real. If Virgil Ortiz doesn't fight him. And
610 Nas, which by the way, he said he subbed as well. We appreciate you. He says Philly has a big Latino community as well. Like that's a massive fight. And so, you know, it was interesting because I was just sitting down looking at the rankings. And I'm like, that might be the biggest fight on here. Like you could argue just in terms of where it could be in the New York, Philly area, Madison Square Garden. You got Puerto Rico. You got Jaron Boots Ennis. Like that's a massive fight. Like that's one of boxing's biggest fights to make happen, I think. And then obviously you have, you know, Boots and Virgil, which I think is a very big fight. And then if you were to do Virgil and Xander Zayas, which remember, Zayas was like, I'll fight Virgil. And that was like last year. And then Virgil's like, you know what? I'm gonna fight somebody else, but do you remember that? Like
Yeah,
Xander's
yeah,
Ice
yeah.
was down to fight Virgil Ortiz.
And then Virgil sent the offer recently, allegedly, and was like, "Oh, uh, you wanted to fight before, so let's fight." And then Xander was like, it 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 looked like an offer that was like, Xander's not going to take this because Top Rank doesn't have a deal right now.
So I think that's another factor in all of this in terms of making fights for top rank fighters. There's no deal, right? So this is the biggest issue. How do they not have a deal and it's almost the end of the year? Why was Inoue fighting on Facebook? One of the best fighters in the world was fighting on Facebook
In
like
2025.
top rank has to get it together. It's not 2008.
Michaela Mayer is fighting in Canada in 2 weeks for a title.
Is it on Facebook?
On a third, I don't know where it's at. I'll look. On a Thursday, by the way. Like
Virgil Ortiz fought on not Virgil Ortiz, who fought recently?
Oscar Valdez.
Oscar Valdez. He fought on ESPN Deportes.
Emiliano Vargas supposedly is going to go that route as well. There's rumors about Richard Torres. He's hinted at this actually on his own Instagram about him fighting potentially in Mexico. Like, there, a lot of stuff still needs to be finalized, but we do know that as far as Top Rank goes, Michaela Mayer, see right here, is moving up again to 154 to fight Mary Spencer at the Montreal Casino for a WBA title. WBA is not recognized by BoxRec, so that's not here, but that's going to be for a title the day before Halloween in 16 days from the time that we're recording this. I don't know what's the deal with Top Rank. Top Rank's last event, by the way, was Xander's Ice title defense against Jorge Garcia, which I was covered, and we talked about extensively on this show. It was almost 3 months ago at that point. At this point, it's July 26th, I think it was. There's a rumor that came out yesterday about Keyshawn Davis could get bought out of the last part of his contract and then go to Matchroom or whatever. I don't know how much stock I'm putting into that.
I think a lot of fights are being held up because of this Top Rank deal. Like it has to be, because it's like, what are they gonna do? Fight on Facebook? What are they gonna do? Instagram Live? Like this is ridiculous. So that poses the question, Brian. Like, what's happening with this Top Rank deal, and what do you think? Like, what's gonna happen with Top Rank? Why do they not have a deal yet? Shouldn't this have been taken care of when they knew that ESPN wasn't going to renew?
Yes, this should have, because look at who we're missing out on. So he's with Riyadh Gang now, so he's gonna be up there. He's gonna be fighting Picasso in December or whatever. Great. Rafael Espinoza. Does Rafael Espinoza has a fight that's coming up? Like that got I thought he had no, there's nothing official yet. Navarrete, we got to see. Murataya, now he may be fighting Andy Cruz. Don't know where, don't know when. That would be cross promotional also, because Andy Cruz is a Matchroom guy, but and the IBF, there's supposed to be a purse bid situation for that.
The only thing I can think of is that they're in talks of a deal. Well, they're in talks with everybody right now, but I do feel like a deal will be announced before the end of the year. It has to. There's no way that Top Rank can go into the new year without a deal.
I listen. I thought that they would get this done by the fall.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, you have the money, I think, to just do it on YouTube. Like go pro box, go the pro box route, and until you figure it out. But listen, they're probably more traditional over there. Look at who runs the show. Like, they come from TV. They've always been on TV.
They want a linear deal. They want a linear deal. And
let me ask you this. As someone with TV background, like the more extensive TV background, on that note, do you think they want a linear deal because they feel like going to YouTube will be cheapening the product? Like, they want to hold a certain level of prestige and not do anything in the interim?
I think the way that I compare it is linear TV, despite the fact that it even sounds old when you call it linear TV, right? It's the biggest platforms are still on linear TV, no matter what. When you take things off of linear TV, what you're going to have is the product like Major League Soccer. Major League Soccer used to have a deal with Fox. Major League Soccer up here had a deal with TSN, which is the ESPN version of Canada. They were like, you know what? We're going to go straight streaming. They moved over to Apple TV. Their viewership has never been lower before, ever. They have one of the worst, like it just declined. I think for Top Rank is like, it's a big name, right? It's a huge name. It's a big product. They should be on linear TV now. I'm sure they're trying to find deals, but at the same time, a lot of these networks aren't trying to invest in the business of boxing anymore. We've seen this happen, right? We've seen HBO, go away. We saw ESPN go away recently.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is something that worries me, but I do believe that to have the product on linear TV makes the most sense, and then having an option of like having a streaming service, right? Like they probably want both, but it's a product. Top Rank should be on linear TV. Now, where they go, I think Turner Sports probably makes the most sense for them.
But do they want it? CBS got they got the Riyadh. They got the not the Riyadh. They got the Zuffa Boxing edition, which I talked about on my channel
But then
recently.
Zuffa probably just wants to box out Top Rank because they want to do everything.
No,
so they're
no,
not going to let that happen.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like that's an option that's not on the table at this point. And with Zuffa, it looks like they're gonna do almost Contender Series style, like Friday night fights style fights that build up guys, so then they're ready for Riyadh, so to speak, so that they're ready for the bigger fights in air quotes in Saudi. Okay, and Top Rank is one of the only other promotions that has a leg to stand on in this new era we're entering. But it doesn't appear like they have a leg to stand on if they don't have a deal. Like, I don't know. TNT, I said Top Rank on TNT, great marketing. TNT, Turner, as you mentioned, also a history with combat sports. Also, currently right now, deal with AEW.
Yeah, so it makes
sense. Has had MMA also. It's had one championship.
Yeah, so that's the place where I think makes the most sense. And also it's like, Fox used to have PBC on Fox. Like, I don't think Fox is in the business of investing in boxing, but like they would have to look at all of those networks. And I just think because Zuffa Boxing is with CBS, that they'd be like, no, you can't have Top Rank on here because they want to control everything.
NBC is another one, but I don't know what their intentions are. Otherwise, I don't know.
Seeing boxing on NBC would be great, but it's like I haven't heard anything about NBC.
Nothing.
Like not one thing. So it's like it's hard to believe that they'd go there. But we did hear rumors about Turner. We did hear that.
Yeah, and when I heard the Peacock thing, it looked more like it was more like a theory, not more so like, oh, this is being talked about, this is happening. It's just no TV, no streaming. I feel like at this point you'd be okay doing it on YouTube, but I feel like this becomes a pride thing now where it's like you don't want to take the L, quote unquote, and just go to YouTube. Like I don't think you want to go from ESPN to YouTube. Like
Yeah.
I just think for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, just level of stubbornness is maybe also why they're in this position. So I mean, hopefully they can get the deal they want. The renewal for ESPN. I mean, look, ESPN picked the WWE over them essentially, and WWE is bigger business than boxing right now.
Yeah. So we'll see. Drop your comments. Let us know where you think Top Rank is going to be. If it is going to be on linear TV, if you see them more just being a streaming service at this point, because that might be a thing where they even go to DAZN. I mean,
Right.
they have to be somewhere.
Should
They're
probably talk about that.
they're nowhere. Top Rank on Facebook. Like I don't ever want to see that again. I never want to see one of the best fighters on Facebook. I don't even have Facebook. I couldn't even watch that fight
until after the fact.
Yeah, which was crazy. That's
I found a way.
Yeah.
I think I by the way, Raymond Murataya, Andy Cruz, IBF title fight. Purse bid is in 2 days. So we'll see what
That's
happens.
a fight that I'm interested in. I think that's a very good fight. Some people might think it's boring, but whatever.
Do you think Andy Cruz would be the favorite? Because
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think Murataya should be the favorite. I think Murataya should be further along in his career at this point. I think Murataya should have been in bigger fights at this point, but I think Andy Cruz is probably the most exciting fighter in that division. I think you could argue that. I think I don't know if we'll ever see Shakur and Andy Cruz, but I don't know if people would want to see that.
I think we will, but not at 135. Because it looks like Shakur, if he does fight Teofimo next, he'll move up, and Andy Cruz will move up too at some point.
Yeah.
Legit, like just a ridiculously good amateur pedigree. I still want to see it at this level. And Raymond Murataya, the email championship jokes are going to fly because, well, he got the title because he was the interim champion and then promoted to champion once Vasily Lomachenko retired.
Mhm.
And I don't think Andy Cruz is the most exciting guy in the division. Like I would still put Tank and like Abdullah Mason there, but I'm intrigued by what Andy Cruz can do, and I kind of think he'll win this fight.
I'm a big fan of him. I think he's really skilled, and he's got power. Like Andy Cruz got pop. So I think for me personally, I think he's one of the most exciting fighters. But I think a lot of people. Obviously, you have the big names of like Tank and Shakur and whatnot, and obviously Abdullah Mason, who continues to make noise. But who knows when we're going to see him next? Maybe on Facebook. Brian, any other topics that you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think we're good. Let's just get to the comments if you guys have them on the way out of here. We have Mateo. Stuff happens with the Top Rank doing this. Unfortunately, Marvin Hagler fought inside of a new station once in a pro fight. Sometimes the best is just to eat it. I mean, look, Top Rank, like, YouTube wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah, it would make things more accessible, and it could be YouTube TV.
Yeah,
right. So it's like you could pay
you
could pay a subscription to have Top Rank. Just saying.
Yeah, like I do think Alphabet Boxing says Murataya lost to Tarmer if that to Tevin Farmer to Tevin Farmer if that fight was ESPN. I listen at Tevin Farmer, man, he faded late, and he had I think a point deduction in that fight too. But I thought Farmer got short end of the stick in that fight, and in both Williams Zepeda fights, I think he should have won at least the first one, and then he got caught by Schofield in round one. By the way, I still want Schofield to kind of prove it. I don't get too excited about first round knockouts. Like I see first round knockouts and I'm like, yo, that's great. But if you just catch somebody, I still need to learn more about you, like when you get rounds. So we'll see when Schofield is able to get more rounds. Less so with Boots, because I feel like we know Boots is good. We just want to see him against better guys. But yeah, I agree. Like I'm still iffy on Murataya. When I interviewed Rayo Valenzuela like earlier this year, he thought Murataya was like the most underrated boxer, he said, in the sport. And I was a little surprised by that. This is before he won the interim title, before he fought, God, what's the Russian dude's name? One who got knocked out by Devin Haney. Its name is escaping me at this point. But I don't know. I think Andy Cruz might beat him.
All right, well, we'll see. Drop your comments. Let us know, by the way, who you want to see fight. If there's any news or anything that you want to talk about, drop them in the comments as well. We may be able to get to that on another episode. We're going to be taking a little bit of a break next week, but we'll be back the following week. And luckily, it's a slow month. Brian, this is probably one of the slowest months ever in boxing.
It just got slower. I'll be at the Danny Garcia fight this week in Brooklyn. So let me know if you're going to be there. Say hi, and I'll have coverage of it. I'll probably post some stuff either here or my channel or both. Did an interview with Chris Colbert last week, and that was interesting to say the least. But the Danny Garcia card real quick, like there's actually some shit on there. Like I'm actually surprised at some of the guys that they got. Danny Garcia is obviously fighting. It's like his goodbye to Brooklyn fight or whatever. But like Dominique Crowder, Damian Nybo, Rashad Matty, obviously Chris Colbert's there. Like there's actually some interesting names on here. Matthew Gonzalez, who's from my neighborhood in Ridgewood, where I used to live and where I grew up. So there's some comeback fights. There's a mixture of veterans, like up and comers. So I think it's a cool card, but you know, I wonder how it's going to perform at Barclays Center. It's a big arena.
Yeah, let us know if you're going to be attending the fight. And obviously, Danny Garcia, one of my favorite fighters, and I thought his best was at 140. Just in my opinion, he was that guy. at 140 for sure. But yeah, we'll be back not next week, but the following week after that. And make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you like the content.